We say that nowadays you can get a quality flagship-like smartphone for half their price tags. But is it really true? The way I see the market right now is that phones between 20 to 30,000 rupees do give you great specifications, no doubt. However, they do make some compromises here and there. It may be in terms of designing, it may be uploaded software, it may be, the fact that these brands do not have any legacy to offer to you. Or it may be a poor battery life, or the most important thing that all of them look the same. They have nothing unique on display. Well, if you do think that smartphone manufacturers have now made the market saturated, this video might change that. If you don't know me yet, my name is Sid and I've been using the Moto Z Play for quite some time now. And in my opinion, it is the best smartphone you can buy for under 30,000 rupees. Even though the price tag of this phone is actually 25,000 rupees. Now, that's a very big thing to say. But the truth is, the phone actually lives up to it. Watch on this video to know whether or not you should be buying the Moto Z Play or not. A little heads up. Even though being a reviewer, I'm not biased to any smartphone, I do have a soft corner for Moto. Because the first smartphone I ever owned was a Motorola Droid Razr XT912. Back then it had a great design and it was the thinnest smartphone then. This year Moto has ousted the Moto Z, which is again a very good looking phone, and it has a thinnest design for this year. 5.2mm is what I believe. The Moto Z Play on the other hand is neither that thin nor that good looking. But in my opinion, the girth and weight of this device are justified because it has a bigger battery than the Moto Z. Talking about the design language in general, the phone actually reminds me of Galaxy S6 a lot, with a brushed metal rim on the sides and glass on front and back. Talking about the back, there are no antenna bands there. Instead, Moto has intelligently employed the antenna bands on top and bottom, which I believe is a great positioning for them. Coming to the back again, the glass back is not slippery, but for sure it can easily get scratched and it can easily get dirty. Apart from that, on the back you have a protruding camera lens and a magnet at the bottom, which actually looks like an unfinished circuit. And all of that is awesome. If you want a device to stand out of the crowd, trust me, this one is a head turner. Almost everyone who saw this phone in my hand almost always asks me, which phone?
Nice one.
Thanks. The camera plate on the back makes it an intriguing device, and the metallic plate on the bottom makes it a very alluring device. Plus the mirror finish on the back makes it look much more premium. Moto Z is definitely a thinner and a better looking device. However, this phone has a 3.5mm jack, which that one does not. This phone has a bigger battery and modularity is supported on both these phones. Coming to modularity now, Moto actually believes that users know best what they want in a smartphone, and hence it gives them to them by Moto mods. You pick what you like, a camera, a speaker or even a projector, and it magically attaches to the smartphone without turning it off or even pausing it. And this is something that no other smartphone manufacturer is offering you at this moment. However, I do believe that modularity is a thing of the future right now, because with the exorbitant pricing of the Moto mods, I'd rather buy a Bluetooth speaker than attaching a soundboard which costs me that much. Yet, a feature is always a feature, because this magnetic plate also helps you attach covers. This one came bundled with it and it's the coolest back cover ever. There's no stretching it to fit, no fiddling of a phone, just snap it and it's done. And unlike other covers, it doesn't even come out that easily. Oh, and it does even out the camera hub too. But there are some issues that I have with this phone in terms of designing. The bezel on this phone is a bit too much for my liking. The top one due to the unnecessary Moto branding, and the bottom one because of this fingerprint scanner, which does nothing else than being a fingerprint scanner. It's still not a home button. All it does is it locks and unlocks the smartphone. And it's actually very fast at doing the latter. And again, I'm happy to see the fingerprint scanner in the front rather than on the back, but it increases the overall size of the smartphone. But overall, these are petty issues for an otherwise brilliant looking smartphone. It is one of the best I've seen in under 30,000 rupees this year. And what else is best in class is the display of the smartphone. It's not Quad HD like the Moto Z, but it's a Gorilla Glass protected 5.5-inch Full HD Super AMOLED display that gives you exceptional brightness, great viewing angles and vivid colors. It is the same display that you would find on a Galaxy S7, and not being Quad HD is easier on the battery life too. Plus, with Motos you get the Moto display, which shows you the clock and notifications on the screen whenever you look at it. And even though it randomly keeps getting on, it does not affect the battery life that much. And what preserves the battery even more is what is inside the smartphone. It comes with a Snapdragon 625 processor, which Qualcomm claims, and I have tested to be, a very efficient smartphone processor. It is the same CPU that you would find on an Asus Zenfone 3, which makes it 2600 mAh of battery last for more than a day. In fact, in my opinion, Moto Z too should have gone in for this processor because it has a tiny battery. And some people would be disappointed that this phone does not have a Snapdragon 820 processor, especially because there's a difference in terms of benchmarks. However, I personally believe that those people are mentally disturbed, because in real life, there is not much of a difference in terms of 820 and 625 in terms of performance. In fact, with a better battery life and better thermal efficiency, in my opinion, the 625 processor is actually better for gamers. And since the games have a lot of sound effects, the front-firing speaker is quite loud for its price. However, I do miss the dual front-facing speaker setup. So, performance is top-notch. But the only bummer is the 3GB of RAM, considering that you can get a OnePlus 3 for 3 more grands, which has 6GB of it. But the question is, do you need it? Because if smoothness is what you're worried about, don't be. Software is a section where Moto excels with its stock-like, bloat-free Android Marshmallow experience. It is the same experience that you would get on a Nexus or now a Pixel smartphone, and it's very, very compelling. In fact, Moto used to receive quick updates too before Lenovo interfered, so let's hope for the best there. But the beauty is not all in stock. Moto phones also come with half a dozen Moto actions, which in my opinion make them very cool devices. My favorite ones include the Chop Twice flashlight and the nifty Moto Voice, which can be accessed even when your phone is closed, it is at a distance, and it can be triggered off using a custom catchphrase. Let me give you a demo here. Okay Siri. Okay Siri. But the only issue is it works 1 out of 2 times. And there's another favorite feature of mine, which is twist camera. You basically flick your wrist and the camera app opens. But I still prefer pressing the power button twice, for it feels a bit more fast. By the way, since I've opened the camera, let me review it too. I like the 16 megapixel rear camera for the most part. The colors were very natural and the shots in broad daylight and even artificial light were good. Low light shots too were decent, and when there is no light at all, the dual tone flash helps a lot in getting good pictures. I have seen a lot of smartphones struggle in flashlight, but not this one. So, it's a good camera, but again, there are some issues here too. Firstly, even in fairly sufficient amount of lights, the camera automatically goes into night mode, where it tells you to keep your hand steady for shots, which is a bit annoying. Secondly, the phone does not have an optical image stabilization. However, to be very honest, I did not miss that feature much. As you can see in this video footage, electronic stabilization does the job fairly well. Plus, you can shoot in 4K as well. However, the phones feel a bit too slow at times to autofocus, but the camera UI fixes that too, where you can manually tap to focus where you want. Talking about the UI a bit more, it's still simple and stock with standard functions including the slow-mo capture and this nifty control which allows you to adjust the exposure quite quickly. But my favorite part is that you can take slow-mo videos from the front camera as well, which I don't find on many other smartphones. Talking about the front camera, the quality is fine with HDR and beauty mode available. But what I love the most is the presence of a front-facing flash. If you two party a lot, this feature would be your favorite too. Overall, the cameras are not comparable to a Samsung Galaxy S7 or an Apple iPhone. However, they are pretty good for their price. Talking about the other features that this phone has, you get a dual hybrid SIM slot where you can either use 2 SIM cards or you can add in a micro SD card slot on top of the 32GB internal storage which you already have. The phone also does support VoLTE. And now off to possibly the best feature of the smartphone. Nothing I have said until this point is a bigger achievement than this one for me. In a day and age where I believe that battery life is practically a joke without power banks, this phone gives me 2 days of battery life with above average usage. Use it a bit more judiciously and you may even get 2.5 days out of it. And there are a couple of reasons for it. Number 1, it uses an AMOLED panel which uses less power. Number 2, it uses a Snapdragon 625 processor which again is power efficient. Number 3, Moto's software optimizes the background processes in a way that they get closed frequently and it saves a bit more power too. Lastly, you get a 3510 mAh of battery on board, which is beefy enough. And the result of all this working together is that I used to get around 6 to 7 hours of screen on time with this phone, with my kind of usage which is generally on a higher side. Plus, when the battery gets down to 0, you can charge it up quickly with a turbo charger present on this phone. However, it still takes around 2 hours to charge, which is not that fast for me. Yet it is faster than an iPhone 7 Plus. So now that we have discussed the smartphone in detail, it's time for me to tell you whether or not you should be buying this in my verdict. And here it is. Personally, I like the design of the smartphone. However, there are a lot of people who would not like this design. Barring this personal preference, however, the phone scores well in terms of camera, performance, display, and most importantly, battery life. A feature that not many phones can boast about in this day and age. I would not be touching about modularity that much because I don't see many people using it in the near future, considering that the prices are exorbitant at this moment. However, I did use the JBL sound boost with this phone, and if I were to buy the smartphone, which I would not because of the size, it's a bit too big for me, I would have bought that mod along. But overall, if you like Android in its purest form, if you like the Moto brand name, and more importantly, if you like to save money, this is the best phone you can get for under 25,000 rupees in my opinion, and one of the best smartphones ousted this year in general. You did it again, Moto. And that's what I think of the new Moto Z Play. Do tell me what you think in the comment box below. Apart from your questions and suggestions, let them pour in. After you have liked and shared this video with your friends though. Also, if you haven't already, do subscribe to our channel as well. And my name is Sid. Keep seeing me. Ciao.